Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to Beautifully Broken. My name is Sabby, and if you don't know who I am, I started a YouTube channel called Beautifully Broken over a year ago, where I started giving tips, guidance, tools, and knowledge on how we can better understand ourselves, our past and present stories, and in doing so, we can help heal our mental health. I help others gain a deeper understanding of themselves so that they can heal what needs to be healed in order to move forward into a happier sense of self. I believe that in looking back at the traumas, emotional wounds, and old narratives we carry, that we learn what needs to be healed in order to better our mental health. Welcome back, everybody, to Beautifully Broken. Today I have another interview for you guys with someone that I've known for a very, very long time. His name is Brad Davidson. I've known him for 8 years. He kind of helped me get into my fitness journey, and that has helped me a lot with my mental health over the years.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Brad Davidson. I'm an author, speaker, performance coach. I specialize in the world of high performers. So that's like anything from CEOs to professional athletes to tactical teams to just highly driven people like me. They're trying to be a great father, a great parent, and be successful in work and life and all that stuff. So that's kind of the world that I live in. Is for predominantly most of my life, it's been the physical realm of helping people look better, perform better physically. And like over the years, just kind of through my experiences, it kind of started rolling into a little bit more of like, oh, we probably need some emotional strengthening, some spiritual strengthening, some mental strengthening. You can't just outwork everything physically, I discovered the hard way.
Were you aware of your mental health when you were younger, or was there something that kind of triggered your aha moment as you got older where you went, okay, hang on?
I definitely was aware of it. I remember being a teenager and the doctor my mom worked for put me on Paxil for depression. But I couldn't take it because it made me super nauseous and I just stopped eating. I couldn't eat. I started losing a bunch of weight, and you know me, like that's the last thing I want to have happen to me, especially, in high school, I'm already super skinny and I started losing weight more. I was like, there's no way. So I knew it was there. And I did probably the classic male thing. I just kind of put it in a box in the corner of my mind and pretend like it wasn't there. And I just started working out harder and eating better and just thought like, if I just take care of myself physically, I won't ever have to deal with that. So I knew it was always there, but I was always able to control it, deal with it, until, holy cow, 4.5 years ago, flew home one night from a speaking engagement and landed and realized that my marriage was over. And I didn't know how to handle it. Like at that point, I'm like, holy cow, there was no amount of exercise or physical prowess, anything that would shut my mind off, or like just the spins and the freakouts and the just the stuff going on in my head just ran rampant. And I did not know how to deal with it. And it was that point I thought, oh my gosh, I've been avoiding this for my whole life. Like I've never wanted to deal with the mental, emotional pain and the struggle. And I've always put it in a box. And now here it is. And I don't know how to shut it off. I don't know how to control it. I don't know how to deal with it. That was my moment. I remember sitting in my little 1-bedroom apartment after I'd moved out and just losing my mind because I had no strategy, tactics, anything to deal with it. So yeah, that was a very eye-opening, scary moment for me.
What led you on to like, okay, I need to go see someone, I need to go talk to someone, or like there has to be a way for me to help deal with these emotions? And
yeah, I've always been the type where if I don't know how to do something or I want to get good at something, I would go hire a coach. And so I was sitting there and I have little kids, and I remember my kids were, I mean, this is 4 years ago, they're little and they're there, and I am losing my mind because I don't know what my ex is doing. I was just in a really bad place and like just freaking out, spinning out. I'm just angry, and I can see that my little kids are scared. And they've never seen me like that. They've never seen me angry. And all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm losing my mind. They can tell who I'm angry at. I'm like little like shaking. I was so angry. And I just remember looking at them and seeing like my little girl had her fingers in her ears. Like, and I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, that was the day I knew, like, I can't be like this. Like, I have to go deal with this. I have to face this. And that's when I started reaching out, and that's when I immediately jumped in and started therapy and all that.
So what made a lot of people think that therapy is scary, right? And they're like, oh, I don't want to go because it's just going to be me talking to someone about my problems. And like, how
Yeah.
did you find therapy beneficial in that situation?
It was someone, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was weird in the beginning. It was scary. Like I'm older, so I grew up in an era where I deemed it as a sign of weakness. Like I was weak because I had to go do this, and that was something I had to overcome. I now believe it's the greatest thing you can do. Like it takes a lot of strength to go do it because it is scary.
Hmm.
But it not only benefits you, but it benefits everyone close to you by doing it.
Yeah.
I actually think we should all be required to do it. At some point, I think it should be like part of high school curriculum is like to
Hmm.
deal with this stuff, to learn the strategies around it. That's how much I believe in it. But um, it was weird. But what happened? It was somebody I could talk to, and I could just whatever I was thinking, whatever emotions I had that I couldn't like, dampen down. I could just talk about. And then what the amazing thing was, this is a gentleman in the beginning. He could help me make sense of what I was feeling, why I was feeling it. I wasn't crazy. Like I was actually handling it really well. Like that was one thing I was made to feel like how I responded to what happened, that I was like this animal, this control freak. And he's like, huh, you didn't hurt anyone, you didn't break anything. Uh, you're handling it better than most. Like, so
Yeah.
who's ever telling you you're not, they don't understand what's just happened. Um, so that it was just like a release valve of one, I can make sense of my thoughts, and two, what I was experiencing, what I was dealing with was exactly what I need to be experiencing and dealing with, and I was handling it well. And if I wasn't, they would course correct me and give me better strategies to handle it, so that I could get off the emotion. I could deal with the emotion without it blowing up in front of my kids.
Mm.
That was my biggest fear. Is like I don't want my kids to see me like this.
Yeah.
But once I'm triggered, there's nothing that can happen that can like calm the storm. Like
Yeah.
it was a physical response that then led to the emotional scenarios, and it was crazy.
So ultimately, your kids were your motivation, essentially. You're like, I don't
Of
want,
course, yeah,
yeah. And hopefully, like by seeing you go through this, and if they ever need it, God forbid, like you
yeah,
know what it's like. You know how to coach them and help them through it. So that
yeah.
takes huge strength, ultimately.
It's taught me how to have great conversations with my children about what happened. And open the doors of communication versus because what happened was we just kind of pretend like, oh, they don't know anything,
Mm.
and kids are super brilliant. They're very aware. It allowed me to have great conversations. It allowed me to use strategies to open doors for them to talk about what was going on and ask questions. And it created, in all honesty, by me doing it, it created a better bond with my children.
Mm.
Like they're more loving on me than they ever have been. I mean, it's been a long road, but like they'll sit on the couch. I have a daughter that's in middle school in seventh grade. She'll sit on the couch and watch movies with me.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't happening 2 years ago. It's been awesome, and it's been something like, I mean, that I've once I started, every week I'm doing some type of mental emotional therapy or coaching or something, um, because I recognize I turned 45. I didn't start working on this mental emotional strength and stability until 4 years ago.
Do you have a set routine that you have, or like other? So what works for you for your mental health? Like especially if you're in one of those spirals or those like heightened emotional states, what do you feel helps kind of ground you and center you?
Lately, I've done a lot of breathing strategy work. Um, one of my favorite, he was like a therapist, life coach. Uh, so I went and I did this program called Onsite. I'm sure you've probably
Mhm.
talked about it because
Oh,
I
so
know,
much. So,
yeah,
so much. Yeah.
yeah. That was my fault. It's the that you talk about that so much.
Yes. Brad got me to go to Onsite. I remember
Yeah,
seeing like my dad sent me the website and I saw the video and I was like I was in tears. I was like, oh my
yeah,
God, like this is where I
yeah.
need to go.
So I'd gone through a bunch of therapy, and then a friend of mine, one of my ex clients, um, he was an ex football player that once he was out of the NFL, he didn't know how to deal with life, and he went to this place and just thought it was awesome. So he's one day just sat me down. He goes, I'm tired of you struggling over what you're struggling with.
Mhm.
You just need to go. Like I'm telling you, just go. And I said, and I trust him. I'm like, he's a good friend of mine. I said, okay, I went, and it was kind of that point where I felt like it really helped. Like, I mean, I call it basically like it shattered my life. I got to have all the conversations I need to have with the people I need to have and the way they have it set up. And I got to deal with all of the past and the heartache and the break. When I came home from that, I decided that I want a therapist that can, like a traditional therapist, that when things go awry, I can deal with it. He can help me deal with it. But I want somebody to help me. Like, here I am now. I want to start building my life moving forward. So I met this guy. His name is Adam, out of Long Beach. A therapist, life coach. What he taught me, that one of my biggest issues was that my thoughts ran me. And he calls it, what does he call it? There's that inner critic that's it's beating us down, but what it's really doing is trying to protect us. So like my big thing was, you're an idiot, you're not enough, like what, like that was always my thing. So when I would screw up, that voice would be like, see, I told you, like, you're a knucklehead, like you did not deserve this, you're an idiot. And so I just started beating myself down that way, but it was keeping me from stepping back out in the world and living my life. It just kind of kept me in a safe, comfortable, hidden from the world state. So it was my thoughts that would run rampant. And so what he was able to teach me how to do was to connect with that and just see them as thoughts and say, no, that's just a thought. Like, that's not reality. That's just a thought. That's just reality. Where before, the thoughts would lead to emotions that would just trigger everything. And now it's like, all it is a thought. It's like, you know what? F you, go home. Like, we're not having this conversation today. So he taught me to have control of those thoughts. And that was a real big one for me, because once my thought went sideways, I spun out. And I just couldn't stop it. Now it's like a thought goes sideways, like, oh, you know what? That is literally just a thought. I don't even know if it's real.
You know what I found that I realized is that thought is actually a voice that you used to hear growing up. So that inner critic is oftentimes someone that used to criticize you, or it could be multiple someones, you never know. I'm sure you dealt with this in Onsite, because I know I did, but like, kind of telling that voice like, hey, you don't control me. This, what I mean? And that person technically then no longer controls you in a sense. So
so being able to control him and appreciate what he's trying to do. He's trying to protect me, and I understand that. And it's like, thank you, but no, not today. We're not going there today. That's been the biggest, like, the thing that I can use now. I've been through all kinds of, I don't even know what they were, but like brain repathway. I've done anything and everything under the sun. I've done so many of them, I don't even know what they're called anymore. But so I did a lot of different therapies like that. But this stuff I really liked. And then I see a lady now, along with Adam. It's I don't know what she is, but she's more like an intuition kind of healer type therapist. So the two of them are just amazing.
So we all know that mental health isn't like linear, right? What were some of the struggles that you had, and how were you able to overcome them?
That I had, or that I still have?
Well, you know what, Brad? Wherever the wind blows. That you currently have, maybe, or did have.
My life like literally fell apart. Like literally, I started over in every arena, which it was like one of those things. It was a blessing. It was a curse and a blessing. It's now a massive blessing, because so much growth came from those dark times. But as I'm trying to rebuild my life, I would kind of step out and try new things, or do something. And then when I would fail or I'd lose momentum, I would beat the hell out of myself. Like mentally, emotionally, and I would spiral out. So I had to like rebuild the ideas of like, look, failure is a good thing. Failure is the next step to success, because I went from being super successful and everything in my life was perfect to everything blown up, and I lost all self-confidence. So it was very easy in the beginning. It didn't take much to spiral me out. Now it takes a lot more. If something goes wrong, I catch it, I see it. Maybe I have one bad day where in the beginning it'd be like weeks where I just check out of life. I'm like, you're an idiot. Just go, like you don't even deserve to come out of your apartment type of thing. It was pretty bad. And like 6 months ago, I lost my father, who was like my biggest cheerleader, my biggest coach. That one sent me a little bit out of a spiral, because that was my person I would call when things would get bad, and he could calm me down. He was kind of my calm to my fire. And then I had some, right, like I had some shame thoughts, like, oh my gosh, like now my dad can really see how screwed up I am and how screwed up my life is, and it's super silly stuff. Those are
Yeah.
things that happen when you're struggling. Like
Yeah.
I remember my therapist looking at me like, really? Like, this is the intuition healer lady that I like. She's like, really? Like, you think that's what your dad's thinking right now? Like, like, give me a break.
Um, can you, I liked the beginning when you highlighted that as a man, dealing with your emotions is something that isn't, highlighted today. And
Yeah,
a lot of them have some struggles with opening up about mental health and how they're feeling. They think that it's a sign of weakness. And
I thought that too. I mean, I even where I'm at, I'm like, I got a little nervous after I agreed to do this with you. I'm like, oh, I kind of got to rip it open and just be vulnerable and know that that's a good thing.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, especially for me, like here I am, I'm coaching, like I'm literally like coaching billionaires and professional athletes and Navy SEALs, and I'm
Mhm.
helping them. And like all of a sudden, I'm the weak, like I'm the broken, weak person. Like all it took was my marriage falling apart to ruin me. And like, so I went through all kinds of stuff. Like I can't share this with anybody. Like all these people are going to lose respect for me because I couldn't keep my life together.
Mhm.
And here I am trying to help them get better. And so that was really hard. What's been amazing to me is that as I over time opened up and started sharing, authentically sharing, like what I was feeling, what I was struggling with, what I was doing for help, how many people, I actually never had anyone say, oh, you pansy, you wuss.
Mhm.
All I got was, wow, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm dealing with this and I'm dealing with that. And could I maybe have that person's number? Or do you think that person, or do you think Onsite would be where I can't tell you how many people wanted to go to Onsite after I came back and started talking about it.
Yeah.
So to the guys, in my experience is this world, I believe true masculinity has a air of vulnerability.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of research and study on what true masculinity is, and it's, yes, calm, cool, collected. We're not supposed to lose our stuff like I was doing so much. Like I'm off my center. Um, but to be able to at the same time provide that strength through your calm and your certainty, at the same time, share like, hey, I'm a human being. Like I'm vulnerable. I have emotions. I feel those emotions. I think it's very healthy to be to feel that. What I just found is my relationships, the ones that meant a lot to me, just got much deeper as I began to like peel off the perfectionism and just share with, I'm screwed up, I'm broken, here's what hell happened to me, and I'm trying to figure it all out now. And but at the same time, as I started getting my masculinity back and staying in that centered, calm, certain state, and knowing that I could figure things out, and knowing that I was on a good path, and knowing that I'm in a growth state, and I just noticed people are very comfortable around me now,
Mhm.
and it's very easy for people to open up to me.
It's true. That's very
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I'd have to say when I came back from Onsite, you were the first person that I wanted to talk to. It was like no one else. It's interesting when you become more authentic and you're more vulnerable. You're naturally more gravitated towards other people who are like that because you feel
yeah,
like they can understand you and resonate with you.
yeah,
So it makes sense that all your relationships that you want to deepen now have deepened, and you can
yeah,
cultivate that authentic relationship.
yeah. And I was the reason why it wasn't deepening, is because of my guard and my wall and my need to paint perfection to the world. And it was really interesting. Like 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing this work with a group called Driven for Life, and I was becoming a facilitator for a program they have called Bold. It was kind of like my first experience of like a personal growth, but back then my life hadn't fallen apart yet. And
Yeah.
I was working through and I connect people well. And I remember Eric, the owner, would be like, man, you're so good at this, but you lack authenticity. I'm like, what? He's like, there's just something about you. Like there's just something you're lacking that will keep people from truly connecting with you. Like there's just a vulnerability piece that you can't go. You got to figure that out. And I was like, what? I don't know. I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. And then it's like, after everything happened, I switched. I'm like, oh, I get it. I was acting like I was better than everyone else. I was the guru and I was going to help them get to this level. But what people want us to know you know my pain, you survived it, and you're going to be by my side as I take the same journey you go through.
Mm.
And it's not, I'm not the guru. I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like I can give supporting strategies and ideas and techniques that I've learned, but we're going to hold hands and walk through the journey together. I'm not going to lead you through the journey. I'm going to kind of be behind you, rooting you on. So that was, I go back to those times and just, that was so interesting that he saw that before, like 2 years before it all happened. You know, it's funny that the night my life fell apart, he was the first person I went and saw that in the morning. I didn't sleep all night. I just went and sat on the beach, and I just texted him. I said, "Hey, call me when you wake up." And he called me, and I told him he was the first person I went to.
Yeah.
So
I think we all have that person that makes us feel more authentic and actually makes us feel like our true selves. Because we all wear a mask. For a long time, you can wear a mask and not even know it until someone tells you. They're like, "Hey, you know, something a little off about you." With me, I noticed that people would keep a distance from me, and I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing. I had a wall up too. So it's amazing how many people have walls up and they have no idea. You know, they're just walking around with like their little shields and wondering why people aren't like opening up to them or getting close to them. But it takes two.
Yeah. You got a lot of fire. You got a lot of fire to you, which I mean, so do I. But so that attracts people to you. But it's scary. It's a little scary.
Yeah, 100%. I find that in relationships too. You know, it's like I don't know, especially like with dating now. It's like either someone shows up authentically with me as well, or they don't. And if they don't, it's very tough. I have a hard time understanding. I'm like, hello, I need more than small talk, please. You know, like, yes, the weather is wonderful, but like, tell me, what do you want to do with your life? You know, like, geez. I know even with COVID going on, how have you been able to like maintain your mental health to a degree? You know, like how have you been able to stay sane?
Yeah, I do a lot of meditation, a lot of breath work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see my therapist, my two people. I see him alternate weeks, every week. One via Zoom, one I can go into the office. Having COVID, I just got over COVID about a week ago. That like 10, 14 days of isolation by myself, not being able to see the world or talk to the world, was really tough. I suggest people when they get it, like use it for an opportunity to grow. So first couple of days I was laid out and I started feeling better and I started kind of like, oh my gosh. So I did like a Tony Robbins event. I read a couple of books. I just use that as an opportunity to grow. And I think that keeps your head in a good place. That was, I've never done that before. I've never been isolated away from the whole world for that long.
It's weird, huh? It's like everyone has to kind of deal with their stuff, actually.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially when you're alone, you're faced with what's in here. There's nothing, you can't escape from it.
Yeah. All the activities we use to numb the pain is right in our face.
Yeah. What do you feel has been the most beneficial thing for you in your mental health journey? Like, what has been like the key that unlocked everything for you where you're like, okay.
Honestly, Onsite.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know that not everyone can go have that experience. It's very expensive, but it was worth every penny.
Yeah.
I mean, like you probably share, like you roll in, you turn on all your technology, you disconnect from the world, and you're with 60 people. That's how many people that were in like the group that I was with. And you only know everybody by their first name. You're not allowed to say your last name, or you're not allowed to talk about what you do. And it was awesome because it just allowed the walls to drop. And then, you know, you break off in your group, you go through the group therapy and everything. And like, that's when I started realizing like, this stuff is so powerful. I was watching, I honestly got more out of watching other people deal with their stuff than I did going through my process. I had a woman in my group that was on the opposite side of the spectrum I was on. Same situation, but opposite of the spectrum.
Yeah.
You want to talk about like being able to see the other side of things that way, both ways. It was like, I got more out of watching her go through processing and understanding why things happened to her. I'm like, oh, I could see so much. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And just to watch people lighten up and start to become a little more authentic when there were like no facades going on. They were like, like nobody was hiding behind their name or their job or their career. It was unreal. Like I saw, like, when people deal with their stuff and they're authentic and they're real and they're not hiding behind anything, I was watching grown adults like enjoy each other, just to enjoy each other, like conversations and throwing horseshoes and kicking a ball around. And like, there was none of this like hustling, jostling. And it was crazy is the last day when everybody got their phones back and you got the opportunity to tell each other like what your last name was and what you did. And then you realize, like, I was sharing a room with two guys. One guy owned the company. He was worth like $750 million. And the other guy was worth $500 million. Just massive companies. And what was so funny is the guy that was worth $750 million couldn't take it. Had to like drop hints as to who he was. It was so funny to watch. Yeah, it's like, but like, it was interesting. And like, I mean, there was famous musicians and I mean, it was like incredible who was there. But as soon as all that information came out, like all the separation began to happen again. Like it was interesting. The people who didn't feel they were as worthy because their jobs weren't as great as others kind of separated themselves out. It was kind of sad to see. Here's what life's supposed to be like when everyone's vulnerable and on the same level and realizing that. And here's what happens when status comes into play and we go back to the real world.
Yeah.
So to see that beautiful picture of what life can be like when people are vulnerable, when they're not hiding behind their stuff, their titles, their BS, their name, anything, it was amazing.
It's tough to go from a bubble like that to then reality, and then you kind of lose touch with what you're doing. I told you I just started doing their online program, Rediscovering You. And I literally after went, you know what, I should have done, I wish I had this when I came out. Like, because I was forced, mine was a little different than yours. I had the trauma healing. So afterwards I go, oh, okay, got PTSD, cool. Now what? So then I'm like, oh.
I did the Living Centered program.
Yeah. They have Rediscovering You, which is similar to that one, apparently. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But last thing I really have for you is if you were to have any advice for anyone out there that's struggling with what you are or going through what you are, what would you tell them?
Man, so I went through a divorce because of betrayal, infidelity. It was the hardest thing that I ever had to deal with. I didn't really want to share it, but because maybe someone listening to this is in this situation, all I can tell you is it's going to be okay. Face the pain, deal with the pain, get help. Don't numb the pain. I know everyone's going to numb the pain for a period of time, but try to limit that period of time because every day you numb it, you just extend the time to heal from it. You're in a position of a beautiful awakening. It's an opportunity for a second chance at life and an opportunity to go and better yourself. And this is where I'm at now, how I take it. It's a beautiful awakening where I have the opportunity to better myself, make myself a better father, discover, because I lost everything about myself and throughout it. Like, I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what I could do, any of that stuff. So I'm in a period of time of detachment. I'm not attached to anything except my children. So it's just like life's very exciting again. And so if you're in that situation, I'm sorry, it sucks. I don't wish it on anybody. But I would never go back and change what happened to me at where I'm at now. I would have never told you that 2 years ago. But where I'm at now, like if you're in that pattern where I was, or in that situation that I was, there are so many great people out there. Like, I remember thinking that I'll never date anyone ever again. I'll never find someone like my ex. Like, I was just screwed. And boy, I mean, like, there's amazing people out there. So you'll find someone else. I mean, I'm still single. I'm still doing my stuff. I'm in no rush for that. And I like where I'm at and what I'm learning about myself, but I'm just shocked at how many great people there are out there. And I really believe the greatest thing you can do is deal with the mental, emotional side of things. Like, I wish with all of my heart, I would have learned that. Had I learned this stuff when I was a kid, I would have had a whole different journey in life.
Yeah.
All those dreams I had, I could have reached. Like, I had the physical talent, I had the skill set. I just didn't have the mental strength or the emotional stability to deal with hardship. or
Yeah.
challenges. And that's what screwed me. So just take the time to deal with what's going on in your head. And it's not weak. It's the greatest gift you can give the people you love. I think if you're, for example, if you're a man and you're on the edge of like, should I do this or should I not? Go do it. It is the strongest thing you can do. It is the most masculine thing you can do. And it is the greatest gift you can give the people you love, is to find your center again. And the only way you're going to do that is to fight through the chaos in your head, the pain you're feeling, the emotional trauma you're dealing with. Yeah, it led me to PTSD and all that stuff, right? And it felt weak, but the strength to fight through it and find strategies to deal with it when it is triggered, it's unreal. It's either going to make your life better or you're going to avoid it. It's going to haunt you until you deal with it. That's really the two choices. Go deal with it, or it's going to haunt you until you're forced to deal with it. And it's not the most loving thing to say, but it is in a way, because it's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times it gets hard, and you're like, you know what, screw it, I'm done with this. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not going back to my therapist. Like, I don't want to face this. Like, I'm over it. And you put it all in a box and you go numb the hell out of yourself again. You don't deal with it. And all that happens is life slowly gets more painful, more painful, more painful, until one day you're like, God, I can't take this. And you pull the stuff out of the box again and you start dealing with it. So just, it's wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, it's the right thing. And just keep doing it. Don't give up. Like, because I promise you with all my, because there were days I wanted to give up. Like, if I didn't have my children, there were days I wanted to give up. But it's like, I can't. That's not the option. I can't do it. And thank God I didn't, because I'm at a place now where it's like, I'm so excited to get out of bed in the morning. I'm so excited to live life again. And you know what? I'm still triggered. I mean, God, I just had my 1 year official anniversary of my legal divorce 2 days ago. Like, that triggered the hell out of me. But it's okay. Like, you're gonna have those days, and you just they dissipate a lot quicker, and you're good. I have no hard feelings towards my ex-wife. I understand. I actually have a lot of compassion for everything. I still love her. She's an incredible mom. She's an incredible woman. She makes some other guys super happy. I want the best for her. All it was an opportunity for me to better myself, and that was the blow I needed to face it. So I wish people just look at it as life. I'm telling you, Robin says, life is happening for you, not to you. And that was an opportunity that life happened for me to better myself, so I can be a better father, but better whatever it is I want to be at. So look at the hardships and the challenges as an opportunity. It's probably that's the last thing I want to share is like, it's beautiful chaos.
I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your experience, and hopefully it's helping someone else out there who's going through the same thing. I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. This is a fun conversation.
Thank you so much for listening. And remember, you have to go through the eye of the storm to see the clear horizon ahead. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next week.